Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jadley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, historical neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and absolutely delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Castbox, Player FM, Audible, Boomplay, Ghana, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have two amazing women on the show today. First up, Jill Lynette Piazza will be here to celebrate Belly Rise. And later in the show, Trish Bruno is on the show talking about her children's book. It's called Killer Bread. You will be amazed what this book is all about. This episode is brought to you by 28 Days of Neon. In 28 Days of Neon, a sweet, funny, and poignant novel, 12-year-old Neon Blue Green is queen of the cafeteria, co-captain of the cheerleading squad, and has Rainbow, the most amazing dog any 7th grader could ask for. But everything changes one morning when Neon overhears her parents whispering and is sure she has only 28 days left to live. Neon needs a miracle, but how can she get one in only 28 days? She decides to do a good deed every day and starts doing good deeds for everyone in town, from motorcycle gang dropout Knuckles Malone to her autistic classmate Bobby, who becomes a hero and a friend when she needs one most. But when her friends ditch her and her good deeds go sideways, Neon wonders if she'll ever get the miracle she needs before it's too late. This beautifully written, thought-provoking, and moving story will resonate with young readers and the grown-ups in their lives. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be smitten by Neon, her dog Rainbow, and the delightful cast of characters in 28 Days of Neon. Get your copy today, written by Mayra Rosenberg. We are absolutely delighted to announce that we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Charlie Chiluzzi Refuses to Snoozy, written by Dr. Brad Mason. This is a delightful and whimsical children's book that tackles a familiar challenge for parents and children alike, nap time. The story centers around young Charlie Chiluzzi, a boy who simply refuses to take his daily nap, despite his mom's persistent reminders. Through playful rhymes and engaging storytelling, the book offers a humorous yet insightful look into the importance of rest for young children. From the very first page, readers are introduced to Charlie's fierce determination to avoid napping. He protests with such fervor that you'd think he was being sent to jail rather than his cozy bed. The narrative perfectly captures the spirited resistance many children show when it comes to nap time, making Charlie a relatable and endearing character. What makes this book particularly enjoyable is its rhythmic, rhyming text that flows effortlessly from page to page. The playful language with phrases like change his viewsy and renewsy adds a layer of charm that will surely delight young readers and their parents. The rhymes are catchy and fun, making it an excellent choice for read-aloud sessions, whether at home or in the classroom. In conclusion, Charlie Chiluzzi Refuses to Snoozy is a charming and entertaining book that blends humor, rhyme, and imagination to deliver an important message about the value of rest. Brad Mason's engaging writing style and the book's vibrant illustrations make this a must-read for young children who might just need a little extra encouragement to embrace nap time. It's a story that both children and parents will enjoy and might make nap time a bit more appealing, even for the most reluctant sleepers. Get your copy today. Charlie Chaluzzi Refuses to Snoozy by Brad Mason. This episode is brought to you by Feliz Navidad. It's December of 2019, and Pittsburgh is covered in a terrible fog. Even worse, all of the reindeer get sick and they can't fly. Everyone in the North Pole is worried they'll have to cancel Christmas. But just when all hope seems lost, Santa's pet, Feliz Navidad, raises his paw to help. And while a dog is not quite a reindeer, Feliz is their last chance to save Christmas. This is a book about perseverance and grit. Feliz Navidad, the story of how Santa's dog saved Christmas. Get your copy today. Feliz Navidad by Ari and Rhea Helper. This episode is brought to you by the Logan series. 3 wonderful books written by Christine Ritchie McNamee. Logan and the Missing Masterpiece, Logan and the Lost Luggage, Logan and the Missing Jewels. Logan and the Lost Luggage is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read, and all 3 of these books feature Logan, an adorable Cocker Spaniel who travels the world with his magic phone. You and your kids are going to love traveling around the world with Logan, meeting animals from all over the world, visiting different countries, and learning how to get along with people from other countries and other cultures. It's a beautiful series of books. Our Reading with Your Kids certified great read panel loved Logan and the Last Luggage. We know you're going to love all 3 books. Check it out today. The Logan series by Christine Ritchie McNamee. Join us right now in the beautiful state of New York. Our guest is here today to celebrate. Her children's book is called Belly Rise. Please welcome to the show, Jill Lynette Piazza. Hey, Jill, how are you?
Good. I'm so excited to be here.
Excited to have you on. What a curious and interesting name for a book, Belly Rise. Tell us all about the book and tell us about the inspiration for the title.
Well, I'm so happy to be talking about Belly Rise because my focus in writing it was to increase awareness of anxiety in children and ways they could cope and create a voice and how to help themselves, as well as learn what is it? What is the word anxiety? The reason I chose Belly Rise as the title, kind of for most children, even adults, it could start in your gut. It becomes a physical sensation, the feeling of anxiety. And sometimes it starts to rise, makes you more nervous and gets into your chest, breathing, and that's just one of the examples that children, I feel, often experience, and they have to decide, is this just, typical nerves of the first day of school? Or is this something that's a little bit more intense that I can't get myself in the building and I need a little bit more help? So the book Belly Rise kind of tries to, the title, explain that the belly is where the feeling starts and it rises into other parts of the body where their brain is saying there's danger where there really isn't any. So that's where my idea for the title came from.
I'm curious. We've talked a lot more on the podcast about anxiety than I ever thought we would. The idea that there are more and more kids dealing with feelings of anxiousness and severe anxiety, it just kind of blows my mind. Any idea or any theories from you as to why kids are experiencing this?
I do, which is kind of the timing of when I wrote the book. It followed the pandemic. And naturally, not only did children start to feel concerned and confused and the illness, but they also saw their parents in the same situation. And I believe anxiety can, mental health does not discriminate. It could come up at any time. And I don't think it's new. I taught about 8 years ago for 14 years with children. I saw it then. Now, though, I would say the increase after the pandemic was anxiety was really brought to the forefront of their minds, right? It was beyond being sad or mad or disappointed. And I think it becomes confusing for children of why is my body feeling this way and what is it? Along with that comes social media. There are positive things about social media, but then there are things on social media that students and children are seeing at such a young age that are adult topics. And then there are certain influencers that are providing false information, and they are seeing the fires, they are seeing the wars, and they're seeing images of what typically a child would be kind of hidden from back in the day from the news, right? You kind of just turn off the news when your child walks in. And then there are parents who say, well, I don't let my kids on social media, but their friends at school are, and they're showing them. So I think the ripple effect of that, and my last thing is school. I had seen over the 14 years of teaching, it become more and more rigorous for kids and more pressure for the teachers, from above. The expectations are just going from here to here. So I think overall, as time has changed, so has situations where the kids are becoming more exposed to such situations.
There's a lot there to talk about. Certainly the pandemic as we look back. And as you were speaking, I just remember every day on TV and in the media, it was almost as if we were watching a sporting event in terms of the numbers of people who were sick and dying. And, you mentioned school and the pressure on school. I love that you've created a book that can start families having a conversation about how to deal with anxiety and some strategies around it, letting kids know that they're not alone and that there are ways to help this. But shouldn't we also, and it's not up to you or me to do that, but shouldn't we as a culture sit down and start to address some of these things that are causing our kids to be so anxious? Certainly, the pressure you mentioned in schools, we like to pride ourselves as having this great school system, but compared to a lot of different countries in the world, America doesn't, score that well. We're way down in different areas when it comes to where kids are performing around the world. And certainly we could do a better job of helping our kids deal with social media and just become more literate about what's really happening, what they're really seeing on these social media platforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. To go back with you, what you were saying, it has changed over time, but I have to say, I've been back in the classroom and it's happening where the conversation has started. And even Belly Rise, teaching, they use a lot of picture books, even if it's now digitally on whatever screen they have. And picture books are a tool, and I purposely wrote realistic fiction because if the students can relate and see themselves in a character, in the setting, they are able to say, which I have seen, I have been there. I use breathing. I like to go outside. And they are learning. The schools, I step back in, and the mental health education and social awareness has taking a big bump, especially after the pandemic. And I am really happy to see that. This is nothing new to me. It's been 2 decades of anxiety, and not just anxiety, because mental health has a lot of cousins. Anxiety can be attached to depression and certain other disorders. And like you said, I believe teaching them early intervention at a young age, what it is, what it feels like, what you could do, and when it's time to speak up, because it could get to a situation that's very unfortunate. And if we start young, just as we would in education for speech issues or learning disabilities, early intervention has proven to, provide more benefits to a child's future. So education has come a long way. And I'm just pointing it out because I lived in silence as an adult. I didn't want anyone to know, because what if they thought I couldn't handling a classroom, which I was very effective at. It didn't affect me. And I want the kids to also see, look at me. I have anxiety, and I've been a teacher. I've been a mother. I am a mother. I became an author. And I just I just want to see the conversation keep going. And it had to start somewhere, and it has started. So it has given me some hope. 20 years ago, you and I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be hidden. And it made it a lot worse for me dealing with it. Looking around at where to go for resources was very confusing. So educating the children, Belly Rise sitting down with the parents with the discussion questions who may not experience anxiety themselves is also a challenge. And little by little, I think the education that you had mentioned that you're concerned about and the stigma is starting to dissipate, but there is still a big way to go. Mm-hmm. There are still things I don't speak about, right? So I do see it heading in the right direction. And I just wanted to be part of, we need to keep the conversation going.
Well, having conversations is so very, very important. What was it for you? Where did you find the strength, the resiliency to get help for yourself, but also to stand up and start talking about your experiences?
Well, genetics plays a role in this. And my mother had anxiety, and her perseverance is what modeled for me. I knew anxiety could be overwhelming situation that you intended to do and wanted to do. And it would take a few steps to get you out the door, in the car, at the event, a lot of people. And those are little examples of what anxiety can really reach, right? So I had a really good role model to show me to keep pushing. So now when I became diagnosed, I think it was around more so in college, which in hindsight as a kid, I probably had it, but ADHD, anxiousness, anything else was not being addressed in the schools yet because of the awareness. So I was ready. I was ready to address it. And I could be honest with you, with the therapy, I leaned on my family a lot as a support system, which is a huge thing I teach about when I visit the classrooms and in my book. You need a good, solid support system. And therapy was a challenge for me. I did choose medication, which is a big choice, right? And it's individual, and you have to manage it. But I tried a therapist finally, and we didn't click. And I didn't realize, like my friend Leah said once, it's kind of like finding a hairdresser. You don't like someone, you kind of have to bounce around a little bit to find your fit. And so I stopped for a good chunk of time. But then for me, I have depression, and I really wanted to try harder. And I found a therapist that clicked for, 15 years now. So it started small for me, and I don't want it to take that long for other people. And where my voice came was I couldn't fathom kids feeling alone, in silence, confused, not even understanding. Anxiety is an emotion just like sad or mad that they have to learn to deal with. And after the pandemic, knowing that and assuming based off of my experience what these kids must have felt getting back into a classroom that looked very separated and different, I sat down and I wrote that story, and I brainstormed one day, but when I wrote down the draft, it was less than an hour and a half. I knew how to talk from a boy's perspective, all from what I learned from teaching of what picture books entailed. And that was my first step. And I was very, very insecure about putting myself out there. Even now, speaking here, I get a little nervous. I've done a magazine feature. I don't know what it is that holds people back. So I just think I found my voice in anxiety. Will I talk about depression next? We'll see, right? It's just one step at a time.
So when you're visiting a classroom or when you're talking to a kid, what kind of techniques are you sharing with kids that will help them deal with moments of anxiety?
When I like to do partner work, when I enter the classroom, I have the teachers, I read the book, I discuss the background of how it was made, and I have them partner up with someone that they're pretty comfortable with. And I kind of go along with the discussion questions of, have you ever felt like the boy in the story where you kind of froze and you felt like overwhelmed and you thought there was like really nervous kind of danger and something was wrong, but there, if you look around, there really isn't any. So when I'm addressing the entire class, I have my 4 strategies in the book. I call them tools. And I let the children know, such as deep breathing a certain way, getting out and moving and switching, changing the situation you're in into something you're comfortable with, such as riding a bike. And then as a class, I said, have you ever felt this way? Like at going on a ride, like I said before, first day of school, trying out for a school team, and making sure they know that anxiety has levels. It doesn't mean they should go home and say, I have an anxiety problem. It's just minimal, and you need to recognize when it's more intense. So when I speak to them, I say, what did you do? And the students have their own strategies. My friends helped me out, or, I told myself this. And I remind them that as they grow, their tool belt, as in the story, you're going to collect so many more tools. Your body's going to grow. You're going to change. As adults, our situations become so much more, the loss of someone while being a parent for your child, having to handle that. It's just a way to understand that it's ever changing and it's a lifelong process. So those are a few tools, a couple of them in the book, but the children want to talk about it. You ask them, you guide them, and how have you helped a friend that you saw that was really nervous? So these young kids really are engaged and having insightful conversations. So they help me just as much as my 4 techniques in the story.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy that we like to celebrate the fact that books can be mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. And obviously, it's great for a kid who's dealing with anxiety to see themselves portrayed in the pictures, in the pages of a book, and believing that they can deal with this and come out on the other side. But I think it's just as important for kids who aren't dealing with anxiety to be able to see that maybe some of their classmates are, and help them develop some empathy and help them understand that there may be ways that they can help support their friends.
Exactly. That's one of the last questions is you see a friend who looks uncomfortable or removes himself from a situation or has tears in their eyes. What do you do to help a friend? Even if it's not someone you're best friends with, do you just tell a teacher, hey, I don't think that, that my friend over there or my classmate looks okay. And the empathy is also a part of helping. I know there's bullying issues, like you don't know what the child is doing just to sit through a class next to you. They may be quiet. They may have ignored you, but it's not intentional when you're, so kind of that empathetic, like just know that you may be okay, but a friend may be just trying to get through a moment, and being more kind or a smile instead of that, little attitude that maybe you had a problem 3 years ago with them, so the empathy, I really do agree with you. I hope is a trickle effect of them starting to everyone understand that it's an emotion.
Yeah. So tell me, you mentioned that you might write about depression next. Are you planning on creating a series of books dealing with these different issues?
Well, for me, due to my anxiety, I kind of like to do one step at a time. Of course, I jot down some issues. This has been a 20-year process. I've written adult self-help books. memoirs, and nothing ever clicked. And so I do jot down ideas. I just personally at the moment, and this could just come to me based off of a situation just like the pandemic just threw my brain into writing so freely. I don't think it's going to be a book about depression or a series. I may go into more of a fictional chapter book, like for more teenage kids, or I may go into the adult section for parents. I just don't know yet, but I want to see how this goes, how I handle it. You know, I'm out of the house. I'm doing a lot of volunteer work. And right now I'm a stay-at-home mom managing that. So I really would love to keep helping. You know, my favorite thing is getting in the classroom. So it's kind of like, I'm not sure where I'm going to be yet with the topic. I also know a lot about ADHD. So I think I'd be more comfortable doing a picture book for children in that situation, because that has become a big increase as well. So I think not depression, maybe more ADHD is where I'd go actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Awesome. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Belly Rise and find out more about you.
Oh, thank you so much. Belly Rise is at Barnes & Noble. It's on Amazon. It's my publisher, Mascot Books. And a little bit more about me and my journey, along with a little bit about Belly Rise. I did a feature in Authentic Insider magazine, which is a mental health magazine. And I've done some other podcasts as well. So that's where I've been so far, to find a little bit more about Belly Rise, as well as this journey I've been on for a very long time.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of Belly Rise. This is a brand new children's book from our guest, Jill Lynette Piazza. Jill, thanks so much for being with us.
It's been wonderful. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
This episode is brought to you by OnceUponADance.com. Take storytelling to a whole new level. With Once Upon a Dance, your child will do more than just listen. They'll move, imagine, and connect. It's a literary adventure and a performance all in one. From graceful turns to energetic leaps, each story brings an immersive experience that engages both body and mind. Whether your child enjoys unicorns, bats, zombies, or cats, Once Upon a Dance has a Dance It Out story just for them. Celebrate joyful movement and visit OnceUponADance.com or find them at your favorite social media platform. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Snoodles in Space, Episode 2, The Zoodles Strike Back, written by Stephen Joseph and illustrated by Andy Case. In this third installment of the Snoodles series, the Zoodles are determined to have their revenge. With the help of a grimy millionaire who's fallen on hard times, they intend to poison the Earth's water supply and turn everyone into willy-nillys and dilly-dallies. Can Brianna and Ricky save the Earth again? Will the outcast kids on the other side of the track rise to the challenge and help save the world? You can find out with Snoodles in Space, Episode 2, The Zoodles Strike Back. Are you looking for the perfect gift for a young reader? Woofy and the Dinosaur Dig Adventure, the second book in the Woofy series, is an exciting choice that fosters creativity, friendship, and teamwork. Join Woofy, a small gray stuffed dog, on his thrilling quest to help his friends excavate a T-Rex in the mountains. Young readers will enjoy his humorous adventures and admire his skills as a pup paleontologist, all set in a beautifully illustrated lyrical story. Authored by Helen Rogenson, retired award-winning teacher honored with the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching. This book encourages lifelong learning while supporting charities for animal rescues and children in need. Don't miss out. Visit us at unpackyourownhappy.com and connect with us on Instagram at unpackyourownhappy. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by the books by Charmaine Perry Knights. Charmaine is a TEDx speaker, award-winning facilitator, world traveler, and author. Serving military families through quality literature is her goal and her passion. Her books are absolutely amazing. They are just full of great messages. Books like I'll Find My Way, and that's okay. I Move a Lot, and that's okay. And It's Cool to Be Kind. Such great books that you and your kids will absolutely adore. These books deserve to be in your family library. Get them today. The books by Charmaine Perry Knights. They're available today at Amazon. Join us right now from the Sacramento, California area. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new children's book. It's called Killer Bread. Please welcome to the show, Trish Bruno. Hey, Trish, how are you?
I am very well, and you?
I am wonderful, but I am really curious. Killer Bread. Are we talking about some loaf of bread that was somehow enhanced and turned into a psychopathic murdering piece of gluten?
That might have actually made a better story. But no, it's an educational book written geared towards kindergarten or younger through maybe third, fourth grade. I'm trying to teach that it's very common for people to feed birds bread, especially when you go down to the water and you want to feed the ducks, right? Everybody brings bread. What they don't realize, though, is that that bread can become toxic very quickly. Especially ducks, they have what's called a crop. So when they eat food, they take it in and it kind of gets stored in this little area called the crop. And it releases the food into the stomach as needed, kind of like a time-released medication.
Uh-huh.
But the thing with bread is it gets wet and it becomes goop and it can't pass. And then it sits there and it just rots. And it can kill them.
Wow, I had never heard this.
Well, that's why I wrote this book, because I see so many people with the bread and I just want to go.
Wow. So how did you discover this? And even more importantly, why are you, because it's obviously you're very passionate about this. Why did you become so passionate about it?
I had been working in wildlife rescue and having many, many birds, more birds than mammals brought in. And very often somebody finds a bird, a pigeon, a dove, a duck, whatever, and they want to be helpful and they feed it. So they're like, oh, I'll give it some water and bread. And I'd get these birds coming into, basically it's a wildlife hospital and with impacted crops. And if I couldn't clear it, that bird was not going to make it. And so I thought to myself, my goodness, how can I get the word out? And I thought, well, if I write a really cute children's book, then families and kids or teachers and kids can read it together and they could both learn something.
So, and I'm sure like a lot of families like myself, when my kids were young, we loved, and they especially loved when they would stay with my mom who lived on a riverbank. And they would oftentimes go down and feed bread to the ducks, and the ducks would seem very happy to come up and get fed. And they would have been very upset to have learned that they might have been endangering those ducks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they're all part of our ecosystem, and we don't always think about it because we're living, we're going to work, we're cleaning our house, we're picking up our kids. We're not thinking about the little ecosystem around us. But when our birds are not healthy, that creates a problem for all the other animals too, because guess what? Everybody poops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if our birds are getting sick, if our birds are getting infected, if they're sick in their crops, they're shedding out sick feces, some other animal like a raccoon is going to come and lap that up, and it really disrupts the ecosystem. It throws everything out of balance.
Wow. Now, is this all birds are susceptible to this?
No, not necessarily. There are some birds that do not have a crop. And usually those birds also eat, like a hawk, is going to eat small mammals and things like that. Blue jays, There are certain species that do not have a crop and are less susceptible. But the majority of the birds that people are feeding, your songbirds, your ducks, geese, things like that, yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah, yeah. Well, certainly feeding geese here on the East Coast. I don't know what it's like in California, but the Canada goose that I guess at one time had been endangered is absolutely no longer endangered now. There are flocks of Canada geese here in the East Coast that are as big as some cities.
Yes, here too.
Yes, it's just incredible. And I know part of that, certainly the ban on hunting them helped them repopulate, but also lots of folks are feeding those birds and really increasing the population to an annoying extent.
It is often better to let wildlife take care of itself so that they don't become dependent on us humans. I do put out some bird seed in my backyard, but I only do it maybe once a week and in moderation because I don't want them to become too dependent on me. Everybody enjoys having birds come to the yard. And especially here in this part of California, up until last week, it was over 100 degrees. I always put out a big bowl of water, like a big tin of water, because you can go without food for several days, but you need water.
Right. How did you become, you said you were volunteering with and helping to rescue birds. That's not something that everybody is apt to do. There's a passion for wildlife there. Where did that spring from?
I had become very ill for several years and I had stopped working. But then I started to get better and I was like, ooh, I'm feeling better. I wonder if I could venture out and start doing things again. So I said, try volunteering. Let me see how I do. Cause it's not a job. So I can say I can stop if I need to. Mm-hmm. And I just started as a volunteer, and in talking with more of the staff there and learning things from them, they noticed I had a lot of medical experience, which, I have a lot of medical training for humans, but that transfers over really easily. They use the same drugs, a lot of the same diseases. And so I quickly became a staff member at the wildlife rescue. And I learned, they made me a bird expert, and I fell in love with birds. I wasn't very excited at first. I was like, oh, yay, wings, great. I want to cuddle a coyote. But what I came to learn is these birds, they have personalities. They're so much more than what I thought they were. And that's where my passion grew from. Just doing medical procedures, trying to save these little guys. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm falling in love.
So cool. What a great way to come back from an illness and re-enter the workforce.
Yeah, it was great. It's been great. Up until most recently, I've been managing a holistic veterinary practice, where I've learned a whole new realm of veterinary, because most veterinary practices are not holistic and integrative. So I've come a long way. I've learned a lot of things.
Yeah. Now you have to help. I'm almost 100. I'm kind of dopey. A holistic veterinary service, a practice. Can you explain that and how it differs from what we would typically find at most vets?
Sure. Your average veterinary, clinic, you'll get in there. They're kind of a revolving door of spays, neuters, and vaccinations. The holistic approach, holistic meaning that everything is connected. So when you bring an animal to a holistic provider, yes, they're going to look at what the issue is. Oh, my dog won't stop itching, say. And the doctor will look it over for skin, problem maybe. But then we'll go, okay, what's causing this skin problem? You know what? It could be the diet. It could be this. And amazingly, we change an animal's diet and all their little problems fade away. They get better. We also provide things like acupuncture, cold lasering, hyperthermia, IV vitamin C treatments, that no regular veterinary office is doing things like that.
I have to go there. I just had my very first acupuncture session 4 days ago, and it was lovely, and I think it was helpful. But what kind of animals, what kind of creatures are you performing acupuncture on, and how does that work? I had to stay still for a long time.
Yeah, believe it or not, we get them to stay still. So we're doing it on a lot of dogs. We have done it on cats, but we'll do it more on dogs. A lot of the dogs will just, if we can keep them calm, we'll stay for it. Sometimes we have to have a tech kind of sit with the dog so that it stays still for the 20 minutes. And that's okay. But I mean, we've had dogs come in, especially big dogs, Labradors, golden retrievers, big dogs like that. A lot of times as they start to get older and they're getting a degenerative disc disease, say their back end goes down, which is very common. Mm-hmm. Well, a couple of sessions of acupuncture, those dogs are walking in and out our door.
Wow. That's incredible. Really incredible. So let's get back to the dachshund killer bread.
Yes.
You know, I know my kids and my mom, when they would go down to the riverbank and feed the ducks, it was coming from a real place of love and appreciation. And it, you know, those moments on the riverbank there, I think really helped, my kids develop a love and a respect for nature. Of course, we don't want to feed them anything that's going to make them ill. So what can we do? What can our kids do instead of feeding the killer bread? How can they, make that connection with ducks and other wildlife and, get that appreciation, for wildlife so that we're wanting to save them, but also not harm them? I hope that was English and you were able to understand that question.
Oh, yes. You know what? You can never go wrong with a bag of bird seed.
Ah, okay.
Go down to Walmart, even if it's not the right kind of seed. You know, there's no duck seed. Well, technically there is, but you wouldn't find it at Walmart. But anyway, any bird seed would be safer than bread.
Okay.
And then, the most ducks that you see in a duck pond, they're usually dabbling ducks, the ones that kind of turn over and their little butts go in the air. They're not fishing. A lot of people think that they're trying to catch fish. What they're catching, what they're going for is the greens that are down there under the water. So if you brought long leafy greens, even fruits and birdseed, things like that, they will do great. They'll thrive on things like that.
Wow. So we can bring a salad down to the riverbank, but
yes,
not
you can.
Not a Subway sandwich.
No bread. And even with, it's October now, so people are going to be getting a lot of pumpkins. Although this doesn't really apply to the birds, when you're done with those pumpkins, slash them open and put them in your backyard. If wildlife comes through at night, they will eat that, and it is healthy for them. Your squirrels, your raccoons, your possums.
Well, I do know that squirrels love pumpkins because every time we've tried to put one out in the fall, they come and they carve it themselves.
Yeah, they love the pumpkin, and it's good for them.
Yeah. Trish, as somebody who's become, as you said, a bird expert, maybe you can help me out here. I've mentioned this on the podcast a couple of times. We have a real issue here in Boston with wild turkeys.
I knew you were going to say that.
They are absolute. They're like gang members. They go down the street in a big group and they trap people in their cars and they walk across the street with just impunity, just like, go ahead, try to hit me. I mean, they really are vicious and they attack people. What can be done about that? Or should we even think about doing something about that?
Well, I'm not sure that I have the ultimate solution. I can tell you, if you've got, say, a flock trying to cross the road and you're like, come on, let's go. If you stand up out of your car, and you kind of, much like when they say if you encounter a mountain lion, take your jacket or something and swing it around over your head. Uh-huh. You can kind of get them moving along that way, scoot.
Okay.
Now keep in mind, they love to see their reflection. Okay, so when they're in the road, they're seeing themselves in all the cars and stuff, and then they're putting their beak to the cars. Not because they want to dent your car, because they're like, ooh, it's like birdie TV, you know? And they're like, oh, I see something that looks like me. I want to touch it. And so, yeah, turkeys are a funny bunch.
Okay. I thought you were going to say that the solution to the turkeys is Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, I do have a rule. I never eat those I meet. So, you know.
Okay. What was the most fascinating thing or surprising thing that you learned about birds in your second career?
You know, I would say a pelican. A pelican skin underneath, on the inside, is like bubble wrap.
Really?
Yeah.
That is pretty surprising.
I found that fascinating. The other thing is they're one of the only birds. I'm not saying they're the only one, because there's a lot of birds in the world I don't know. But in working with the pelican, it's your gut instinct to hold that beak closed so they don't snap at you or anything. But now they can't breathe. They don't have little nares, little holes in their beak to breathe. So you can't hold that beak closed, or you're going to suffocate them. So they're just kind of made a little bit differently.
Ah, wow. So you can't be popping the bubble wrap pelican skin, right?
No. Don't think they'd enjoy that. Now, granted, in the wildlife world, we do necropsies, which is basically an animal autopsy.
Uh-huh.
That's when you get to see the bubble wrap skin, really, you know, if you have to. But it's still fascinating.
It certainly is. I'm imagining that there are parents out there that are listening to you, and they're thinking, wow, you know, my kids are really fascinated with wildlife. And what advice would you give to those parents to really encourage and support their kids' interests in wildlife, and maybe get a career in veterinary?
Well, I would say take them to wildlife events while they're young. A lot of times the wildlife rescues in your area will sponsor fundraisers or special events, and there'll be kids' games and activities. And there'll usually be somebody who's going to teach some kind of lesson. And the more exposure they get to events like that, the more that they'll learn and have that appreciation.
Wonderful. Now, Killer Bread is out there, and I'm assuming you wrote the book to save the birds, not necessarily to become a children's author. Or you can correct me if I'm wrong. But now that Killer Bread is out there, are you inspired to continue to write children's books?
Well, this is my second. There was one previously, also about wildlife rescue. And I am unsure. I do have an idea for a third book, which would concentrate on our oceans and things like sea turtles getting trapped in plastic and things like that. However, unfortunately, I am pretty much an unknown author. And this last book, basically, it's called Hybrid Publishing. So I had to pay to get this made, and it was very, very costly. And since a lot of people don't know me, you know, it's not selling 5 million copies. So I don't honestly know if I could pull off a third one again, because it's very expensive.
Well, Trish, you now have something in common with Hollywood stars like LeVar Burton and Danica McKellar and Candace Cameron Bure. They've all been on Reading with Your Kids. So you're no longer an unknown author. You're up there with those Hollywood greats.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, you know, maybe this will turn some things in my favor.
Well, we certainly hope so. Where can people go to find out more about Killer Bread and find out more about you?
Killer Bread is available at online booksellers, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. And then to find out about me, though I don't have a website yet, I am on Facebook at Miss Trish Wildlife, and also on Instagram, Miss Trish Wildlife. I try to post some pictures, articles, things that are of interest to people.
Wonderful.
And they're also welcome to message me on those services. Sometimes I get messages from all over the country saying, "Oh my gosh, I found this animal. What do I do?"
That's I'm sure that you tell them probably leave it alone, right?
It depends. It all depends. Sometimes the right thing is to leave it alone and put it back, and sometimes the right thing is, oh my, bring it to the wildlife center immediately.
Great. Well, you're certainly providing a wonderful service, and we are happy to help you spread the word about killer bread. I'd also be interested in having you come on if you decided to write about that mutant loaf of bread that goes on a killing spree. That might make for a fun, spooky middle grade novel.
Yes, I'll have to consider that now.
In the meantime, we want to encourage everybody to check out Killer Bread. It is the latest book from our guest, Trish Bruno. Trish, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Before we invite our guest into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids, and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Hey, if you don't want to miss an episode of the show, please be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. We love the iHeartRadio app. We love GoodPod, Spotify, Apple, Podcast Addict. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Hey, we'd also really appreciate it if you could leave a 5-star review for the show wherever you listen. This is a great way to find new people to join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We love it if you could connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedley Magic on Twitter. We have a great YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. And we'd love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can check out our blog and read our entire review for Charlie Chiluzzi Refuses to Snoozy. You can also visit our Reading With Your Kids Certified Great Read Wall of Fame. What a great place to find the next book for your family library. You can also use the contact button at the top of the page to send us a message. We would love to hear what you love about the show. We'd love to hear what you think we should be doing better. And we'd especially love to hear who you would like to hear on a future episode of Reading with Your Kids. And if you're an author, please be sure to click the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to find out how you can be a guest on the show. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of Kidlit fans all around the world about your fantastic children's book. You can also learn about our very effective and very affordable promotional services. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our amazing guests, Jill Lynette Piazza. Please be sure to check out Belly Rise. We also want to thank Trish Bruno. Be sure to check out Killer Bread and stop feeding bread to the ducks. That's a terrible thing to do, I guess. That's what Trisha says. Also want to thank my incredible team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Rayling Tang. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.